the offense. Just going A through F here. Let's just get it out of the way. O-line. Let's start with the O-line, Dave. What's your grade?
I have a D. I mean, I feel like, and really when I thought about it, there's two players that are veterans that I thought are not really playing up to where they should be. One is Laken Tomlinson at guard, and I feel like he was so good on film, and I just thought, oh, this is what we're gonna get, from him. So I feel like him. And then our left tackle just not really dominant. Charles Cross is just not having that kind of year that I thought that he would have. And it was interesting. And I remember during the preseason was talking to Ryan Grubb, and he was just talking about what a great guy this guy is as a leader and everything, and that he's really sort of taken the mantle of being the head of the, sort of the leader in that room. And, just haven't really seen any overpowering plays where he's taking somebody, driving them into the ground. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I like to see from offensive line. And you saw that, like a good taste of that was the Detroit Lions when we played them. They have a really good offensive line, and it just not the same. So yeah, I'm going with a D. That's probably my lowest grade that I'll give out today. But what do you got?
I got a D-. I think they've been brutal. I mean, if we want to just keep this real and be honest about what we've seen, it has been awful with very few moments that were bright spots. And what's funny is you point out Cross not being the dominant guy, but you could easily make the argument he's been their best offensive lineman. And that's a guy you're looking at going, yeah, it's not been what I had hoped and hasn't lived up to the billing. And that's the best guy you're talking about. I think every other spot on that line has taken turns stinking it up for different reasons. The right tackle spot, you understand why that spot is struggling because you're down, you're just one after another is going down, and you're forced to throw a rookie who was considered a project in there. So, yeah, that one makes sense. The others, you're just going, what? Tell me about Connor Williams. What's going on here? What's going on with Anthony Bradford? What's going on with Laken Tomlinson? I mean, there are different moments in different games we're going, what happened there? Yeah,
well, and it's coming off a game where, look, they only gave up one sack, but look, you had a ball snapped over the quarterback's head. You had the center stepping on Gino's foot, same guy in those situations, and it's just it's been kind of a comedy of errors at times. And I'll say this, Michael Jarrell, I'll give him an absolute A for effort, just for a guy who wasn't ready for that. But, I mean, he is what you expect. He's a guy that was a long-term project, and he's doing okay, but it's not like they're dominating. And that's just not something that we've really seen.
All right, so O-line, Dave gives him a D. I give him a D-. Let's go to tight end. What do you got for the tight ends?
I got B-. I think Noah Fant is the only complaint I would have about him is that they don't throw him the ball more. I mean, it just seems like he's always open. He always finds a safety valve spot on the field. And then, just as far as crossing, it's kind of funny with him. And like when we got him in the trade, I was like, yeah, I don't really see anything dynamic, but he just kind of gets it done. So, and I think our young guy, A.J. Barner's kind of coming along a little bit. I think Farrell Brown is a great, destructive type of blocker. And, yeah, I got a B- there.
Yeah, I have him at a C. Not even really because of them. I mean, you brought up Barner. He's been throwing the ball 10 times. He has 10 receptions.
Yeah.
You can only do what you can do with the targets you get. And they're not a big part of the offense and just haven't been for years. I mean, it's not – I thought it was a Pete thing. I thought it was a – whichever coordinator you wanted to point to, maybe it wasn't their thing, and it still seems to be not Grubb's thing at this point, and maybe in large part because they're keeping some of these guys into block more than they become receivers because of what's not happening with the O-line. But they don't seem to be a big part of the game plan. It's just in terms of being used as a target out there. There's one touchdown between the three of them combined. Yeah. So
I think it was the beginning of 22 maybe, or was it 23? I'm trying to remember when you had Disley and Fant and Parkinson, and they were doing a ton of 13 personnel, and I was like, and that was just like through the first like 4 or 5 games. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they kind of got away from it.
Yeah, so it's my grade on them isn't so much like, oh, they're just not good. Well, maybe you could point to them. If they were better, they would be a bigger part of the offense. I don't really know the balance versus, what they're capable of versus what they're being allowed to do. So I'm just kind of keeping them there. Middling C is what I've got for the tight ends. Quarterback, what do you got?
I got a B+. I think Geno is probably doing the best that he can as far as the pressure that he gets. I think he's just maybe the best quarterback moving around the pocket and finding places to throw and lanes to throw. But lately he hasn't been able to do that. He's had a couple of times. They were talking about the one pass that got picked off the other day, which was tipped once again. And he's had a lot of those. He's had a lot of those that are tipped. So now all of a sudden it becomes like, okay, now that's kind of your responsibility. You got to try to find a way to not have that. And McDonald was talking about that one interception where the fat guy just falls right into his hands. And, he says maybe they dirt that one. That's one you should throw away. And so, maybe that's starting to kind of affect him a little bit. But I gave him a B plus because I feel like he does a really good job considering what kind of pocket he is looking at almost every time.
Yeah, I've got him at a B. I've got him. He's solid. I think Geno is a good quarterback, and I don't think there are a lot of people that would look at the offense struggling and immediately point to him, and he's never going to be the guy. He's not that guy. And we heard a guest on with a Bump and Stacy who said he's good. He's not great, and he'll never be great. I'm like, whoa, all right. that was
Aaron Schatz.
Yeah. Shots.
Is that right?
That's what.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people think that way, probably. And I guess I can sort of understand that. And as the year has gone on, if you'd asked me that earlier, I would have been like, I don't know, man. I think, he's taken them on some game-winning drives, but I think recently it's just been a little bit more of a struggle for him, and maybe he'll get back to that. But I don't know. I think a lot of the things aren't his fault, but. Yeah, like the tip passes thing, like that is something that maybe you need to rethink that. And I used to sort of defend him on that, but if it starts to happen all the time, then it's a situation where you should probably just throw it away.
Yeah. I mean, you could look at this last game and say, all right, yeah, he should have probably thrown that ball in the dirt, as McDonald said. It turned into an interception. He had two other balls that should have been picked off. Hit one guy right in the hands. There's one right early in the first quarter. You and I talked about it. There were three defenders, and he's trying to squeeze it in between the three of them. And he was lucky to. I mean, there were two that were right there for the guy, so he could have had 3 picks in that game. He's got 8 touchdowns. He's not been explosive in that way, in the way of production. He's got a really good completion percentage, 68.8, but he's made his mistakes, just like everybody else, but he's far from their biggest problem, in my opinion, so I give him a B. Running backs, what do you give Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet?
I got an A-. Again, I think they're both explosive backs. Aaron Schatz was talking about how, there's a lot of guys like that, like Bijan Robinson and is it Kyron Williams that's coming up with the Rams? I mean, I think there's probably a lot of guys. It's kind of hard to tell, but I don't know, man. I feel like Ken Walker can be really special, but again, a lot of what's going on offensively is a product of the offensive line. And when, your offensive coordinator says, hey, we can't really move people. But I feel like he has been able to find some good spots. Charbonnet to me is very kind of hit or miss right now. And I feel like when you get in an offensive flow, you can work him in. But, I don't know. It's just been kind of choppy with him.
Yeah.
But I do like him. I like his power and everything, and I love that block he threw where he got penalized. I just think he's a tough guy, and I think the same thing with K9. So A-.
Yeah, I've got him at a B-, and some of it is availability. Ken Walker had been hurt, and that's not his fault. He's not trying to get hurt, just kind of incomplete. And they are running behind a very suspect O-line. I think Charbonnet, I have a hard time getting a read on right now. I look at him and go, yeah, he's okay. He's fine. He's got some moments. I feel like I expect more out of a second-round pick, and maybe that's my fault for holding his draft status against him. But to this point, I feel like, yeah, he's fine. I don't look at him and go, that guy's special. I don't have that feeling for him.
I feel like he needs K9 can kind of make his own way, but I feel like Charbonnet, like I said, he needs to get into a rhythm, and he's not in that position.
Yeah, so I've got them at a B-. Again, kind of like the tight ends, not totally grading them down because of what they're not doing. I think there's some things out of their control, obviously. Wide receivers,
I got an A minus. Yeah, I feel like it's a really good group, and you look around and look at some of the target to catch ratio maybe is not as much as you'd like, but I feel like they have lots of choices there. And when you have a premium guy like DK, who's had a couple of game breaking type of plays, yeah, I have A minus.
Yeah, I mean, I got B plus, essentially the same grade. There's not been a lot. I mean, between the three, they've got 5 touchdowns. It's just not been very productive. They've had moments, and again, you could attribute this to what's not going on in the trenches and how that's the trickle down when the line's not there. It affects Geno, affects the running backs, affects the wide receivers. So a lot of this comes back to as soon as the ball snapped, what's happening and how is it impacting everybody else. So I've got them at a B plus. I'd like, again, for me, it's lack of production. Five combined touchdowns between the 3 guys. Not great. Not all their fault. All right, so there's the offense. There are the offensive grades. Let's look over at the defense, back in the trenches, D-line. What do you got?
Well, I have a B minus actually for them.
Really?
I actually changed that because
Changed it up or down?
yeah, I went down a little bit. I was thinking about it last night, and the amount of money that they spent in draft capital, I feel like they should have more. I mean, look, they're top 10 as far as sacks go, but I feel like they should be a little bit more special. I haven't seen a whole lot, and I think Big Cat, it's not like he's played poorly, but Leonard Williams, to me, I thought he was going to be super dominant, and that I would be sending you guys clips of, look at him taking on this double team and destroying this, and he frees up the linebacker and this and that. He just hasn't been that guy. I don't think it's bad, but I feel like a lot of it is my expectations because they did dedicate to, and I always think about it this way, that like John Schneider, he gets Mike McDonald and he's like, hey, I want to invest in the defensive line. And, McDonald saying, yeah, absolutely. That's where the whole thing starts. And, they kind of went with a couple of names that surprised people at linebacker. Mm-hmm. But at D-line, I didn't think it was a big surprise that you spent your draft capital the first round on a defensive tackle. And he actually played pretty well. He's kind of been, in and out of the lineup. But, yeah, I guess I felt like we would have gotten more production. So B minus for me.
Yeah, you're. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hard on these. I'm just looking at how bad this.
You're a tough grader, Bob.
This defense against the run is bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's the line, right? I mean, I know the linebackers are certainly part of it, but you're counting on the sacks to come from the edges. You're counting on those guys in the middle to shore up that run defense, right? And obviously, we'll get to linebackers, but with the run defense being what it's been, I got to give them a C. And I felt like that was being I just don't think there's been, certainly there hasn't been consistency. And again, there are reasons. Murphy got hurt and things like that. It just, I don't know. I don't think you can be at the bottom of the league, 29th against the rush, and expect that, hey, that's a good group there. They have the potential to, but to this point through 8 games and the grades we're given, that's a C.
Yeah, well, to me, I mean, when I think of the run defense, I think of linebackers and safeties. When you talk about where that's coming from, where guys aren't filling in the holes, and, you see the defensive lineman, it's fairly easy. You're up front, you're taking guys on, you're clogging a gap. Like I said, I would like to see more destruction up front and guys getting thrown. I feel like Big Cat is that kind of guy. But whenever it comes to run defense, to me, it's linebackers and safeties.
All right, well, let's get to linebackers and / edge rushers. What do you got?
Oh, the edge rushers, A, absolutely. I mean, I would love to see Uchenna out there, obviously, but I feel like as far as their talent goes and where it can take them, I think Derek Hall and Boye Mafe have done a really good job. So, and then you throw in Dre Jones, who has done really well. Yeah, I got an A there. I feel really good about that position group.
Are you separating edge and linebackers, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Edge rushers, I'd go B plus is where I'd go with that. I'd love to see him with Uchenna out there. I think that makes a world of difference. Obviously, I think they've done a nice job considering what has happened with the rest of the defenses we've discussed. All right, so go linebackers then.
So yeah, now inside linebackers, and I wrote a little note to Mike. I'm like, now it's a C plus, but before it was a D minus. to me. The inside guys, the inside backers, just those two guys. And I really, after having gone back and looked at Ernest Jones, like there's really a lot there. Like I feel like he can really help turn this team around. And I thought he made Dodson better. There was a couple of times where he was up taking on blocks, and like I said, it'll when everybody sees him taking on blocks, you did not see that from Jerome Baker. So, and yeah, I mean, you look at as far as that trade goes, I thought that was definitely an upgrade. So now it's a C plus. I mean, I hope that by the end of the year we're looking at more like a B plus or A minus. But before that, yeah, it was a D minus, which is the toughest grade that I've given.
Yeah, I'll give him a C. To this point, I'm optimistic about what we saw out of Ernest Jones. It's one game. He wasn't perfect, but he was aggressive. We talked about if you're going to make a mistake, make it at 100 miles an hour. So he seemed to have more aggression to him, and we'll see if that translates as he gets more familiar with his teammates in the defense. So I'll go with that. Safety. What do you got?
This might be one where I have a tougher grade than you do. I have a D for the safeties, and because I just have. In the beginning of the year, I felt like Julian Love, this was going to make him into a guy. And there was a couple of times I commented to Rabel, and I'm like, it looks like he's playing like Spoon, like at a different level, a different speed. And then that's kind of slowly gone away. And, there's lots of times where you see with the safeties, they're going to be responsible in the run defense. And a lot of times, I always talk about like the 2 or 3 little things that happen during a run play. And a lot of times you'll see, you'll see a guy just entirely get turned, or you'll see a safety take a bad angle. And there's lots of times where I see safeties taking bad angles. So I don't know. I feel like they definitely can improve, but it was one that I thought, I mean, it's a rough grade at D, but that's part of, kind of like I had a D minus for the inside backers. I feel like a lot of the run game is because of that.
Yeah, I was going C there as well. So we'll just quickly move on to cornerbacks.
B minus.
B minus, and we're
okay.
right there. I said B.
Yeah.
B minus.
Yeah.
That's
They've
all.
had injuries.
Yeah, it's hard to get a read. You got guys that were at one point. I'm going, who's number 29? I don't know who that is.
Josh Jobe.
Yeah, so they've been riddled with injuries and throwing guys in there. So I'll go B. You're going. What'd you say?
B minus.
B minus. And then finally, your favorite specialists.
Well, how about this? We've got a kickoff return for a touchdown. We've got a blocked field goal that helped win a game. But then we also got a kick blocked. And then you had, as far as, some of the other snafus, things that are going on with Myers. I think he's 1 for 2 from 40 plus, or 2 for 3. So he's missed 3 kicks, but I think 2 are over 50 and 1's 40 to 50.
Yeah, let's see. He's 3 of 4 from 40 to 49, and then 3 of 5 from 50 plus. So yeah, 12, 15. He's had a solid year. Michael Dixon's having a great year, and he did have the return. So
yeah,
what did you give him?
I gave them a B plus.
Okay, I'll go with you on that one.
How about that?
I'll go B plus on that
Maybe
one.
One of my better grades, and it's for kickers.
There you go. See, he's always loved kickers.